welcome to the Gun Talk After Show. If you're on hold, stay there. We'll try to get to everybody. Every call from every listener, no matter what the issue or problem, is important to us. So stick around for a little while as we call Tom Gresham back to the microphone and let our hair down a little bit, along with a little help from our show producer, Jim Kinsey, who will offer some words of wisdom, and Gun Talk Tech extraordinaire Michael will be checking in. And now, once again, here's Tom.
All right, we are now in the after show of Gun Talk. Glad that you could join us. You know what? Some people actually don't get this. So if you're listening, obviously you're doing it online somehow, you're listening to this thing, let your friends know. Shoot them an email. Say, hey, check this out. This is extra stuff from Gun Talk, where Tom's yakking with the folks in the studio. We got Michelle, we got Michael, and we got Jim. And we're going to yak a little bit, guys. Interesting show. We're kind of all over the place, and we do have some callers we're going to get to. So Jeff, Jim, and Dave, don't go anywhere. We're going to get to you in just a second. At a certain point, do we all just get to where we just kind of shrug and go, yeah, they're going to use this latest murder spree to beat on gun owners and to push their agenda, even if it doesn't make any sense? I mean, is that how you get to the point where we just going, oh, here we go again?
Unfortunately, that's exactly how we feel as being, CCW carers or just gun right advocates. You feel like, oh, come on, can this happen again, really? And I wrote something down on a piece of paper while the show was going on, because we're not advocating violence. We're advocating not being victims of violence. And I think that's important for people to understand where we're coming from. We're not out there on the street saying, let's go and let's do this. We're saying we need to stand up and take charge to prevent it happening.
And I think you may be onto something here. I think maybe to some people in the public, when they hear us talking about concealed carry and taking care of ourselves, they do think that we're advocating violence, when all we're doing is to say we want to stop violence. You can't prevent it necessarily, but you can stop it before it gets worse, perhaps, or you can not be a victim yourself.
I think that's where most people need to express that is the purpose of what we do. It isn't to necessarily go out there and show the world that you're a gun owner, but it's to protect you and your family or the innocent bystander on the street that's going to be attacked or is being attacked.
Well, see, I think a problem a lot of us have is, I had a conversation this week about this. A lot of people think there's the fight or flight syndrome. You get cornered, you're either going to fight back or you're going to run. I think there's a third category. I think there's a faint category. Because I really do. I think a lot of people say, well, you don't need a gun. If it's your time, it's your time.
Oh, the fatalistic thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, okay, but I still think they second guess it as they're dying, saying, maybe I was wrong on that one. I just don't think that we as gun owners tend to think everybody should think like us, and we don't necessarily take it from their perspective. And, I mean, one of the ways to educate them, I'm thinking, is to understand. I'm not saying agree with, but understand how they think and try to use that to enlighten them.
I'm thinking about this idea of the fatalistic of, well, if it's your time, and there's nothing you can do. I think maybe my reaction to that would be, wow, that's incredibly selfish. And they go, what? I said, well, you're deciding that it's okay for you to die, and you've got kids, and you've got a wife, or you've got a husband, and they're going to be torn up. They're going to be devastated for the rest of their lives because you made a conscious decision to not save yourself. You're doing damage to them forever because you're so selfish that you won't protect yourself.
Yeah, it's a good argument.
I think it's a common misconception. I work with a coworker that I was explaining that I've never been hunting, because I haven't. And he said, well, you've never been hunting, but you carry a gun every day. What's up with that? You don't want to kill things or something to that effect. But he was actually very, very serious. And I think, unfortunately, that a lot of people that don't carry, that don't own firearms, have that same kind of mentality where guns equate to violence. They can't possibly do anything else. And that's not true.
Well, of course, what are they being fed all the time in the media? Guns equal crime, guns equal violence. The movies, guns equal crime, guns equal violence. Even though people are using guns to protect each other and protect themselves millions of times a year, it's rarely covered in the media. They bury it on page B7 or something with a 2-inch story if they run it at all. So I completely get it that people have this mindset of guns equal crime because that's all they've ever been exposed to.
Yeah, you're fed something long enough, sure.
Well, maybe what we need to do is start arming ourselves, just like with the gentleman that called in today out of Fort Smith, that, the CCW person wins. That happens quite frequently. Maybe we need to start sending those letters in just to the editors and part of your Truth Squad, Tom.
I think it's a great idea. I think we need a clearinghouse. There are a couple of places that have listings of self-defense uses. KeepandBearArms.com. They have a daily list. And Guns Save Lives is another site. Is it .net?
There's two. The .net, in my opinion, is a better of the two.
Is that the one in Ohio?
I'm looking at it right now. I don't know if it is in Ohio or not, actually.
So is it Guns Save Lives?
Yes.
Lives.net. Okay. Yep, that's what I was thinking about. GunSaveLives.net. Good one, and they have a pretty good accounting. Let's see, they have a self-defense counter right now. It sits at 1,143 self-defense stories.
They also have a site called gunsaveslife.com.
Yeah.
And that looks like it's pretty new, but from what I'm seeing right here, it looks pretty good. A lot of the same stories.
Okay. And I'm thinking about this idea of establishing some kind of acknowledgement, honor system, some way to honor people who have stepped in and saved other people's lives.
Like a key to the city or something.
Yeah, it's just some way to get some national attention if we can. I mean, the problem is you can call them and tell them, you can let them know that you're having this thing, but they can always choose not to run it too.
The fine line I think we run into, Tom, you mentioned it at the end of the broadcast show, is stepping up and protecting other people when you have the opportunity. There's a fine line between that and getting the hell out of the restaurant when everything hits the fan, too.
Yeah, so I agree. And, not only in many cases, in most cases, getting the heck out of the Dodge is probably the smart move. Now, having said that, if you see somebody like this who's shooting up the world, now your call.
You're right. You can think through it and should think through it often. It's still going to be a decision you have to make on the spot, having pre-thought the consequences, everything else. Every situation is going to be different, and you're not going to be able to have 100% accuracy in pre-thinking the situation.
Well, most people don't realize the mental preparation that is there when you say, I am a CCW holder. There's a lot of mental preparation. It's not just carrying a firearm. It is mentally being prepared to take charge of who the bystanders are, who your witnesses are in that aspect, and knowing when you are not going to protect yourself against that violence.
And making that decision long before it ever comes up. You've made that decision sitting in your big easy chair because you've thought it through so many times.
Absolutely.
That's a great point.
Yeah, we'll be back in just a second here and with more gun talk.
The XDM 3.8 Compact from Springfield Armory is 2 guns in 1. Use as your concealed carry gun with a compact magazine and use the extended magazine for home defense. Carry 13 rounds of 9mm in the compact magazine and a whopping 19 rounds in the extended magazine. To see the entire family of Springfield Armory XDM pistols, go to SpringfieldArmory.com. That's SpringfieldArmory.com.
All right, we are back now. Let's go talk to Jim in Pensacola, Florida on line 3. Hello, Jim. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. They started out a little rough getting stopped by 2 deputies, which I used to be a deputy, but I just basically profiled one situation. They came up and asked me in Spanish the question. I'm going, I'm not Spanish, guys. I may look like it, but I'm not. But anyway, some upstanding citizen reported me as being all over the road. Well, this is South. We got potholes. We got tourists. So it went on about, are you under drugs? Are you under... I'm going, why? And he says, well, being under prescribed meds is the same as being under the influence.
Yes, it is.
Drive. And
yes,
we're told, yeah. But a lot of people don't know that. And, your everyday citizen's going to provide information that they really don't need to.
Jim, you bring up a point that I think a lot of people are unaware of. And actually, I was not aware of this recently, and that is there are a lot of prescription medicines that you are not allowed to drive when you are taking them, and you are also at least in my state where I am, and maybe in other states, you are not allowed to carry your gun if you're on these prescription medicines. And it's your responsibility to know this. So people need to, once again, I hope that your concealed carry instructor did a good job in your class to tell you this, but people need to be aware that there are drugs that you cannot take, even though they're legal and prescribed by a doctor, but you can't take them and drive, and you can't take them and carry a gun.
Yeah, and even though the VA especially prescribes them, they're the biggest offender.
Well, it's up to us. It's up to us, each person individually, to know this. Ultimately, we are responsible for our own behavior. We can't sit there and blame it. Well, I didn't know. Well, you know what? It's our job to know. Listen, Jim, I appreciate the call, sir, and I wish you luck with it. Guys, were you aware that in many states that you cannot carry if you're taking a number of different prescription drugs?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I know some people that take prescription drugs that it severely alters their mental state to the point where I wouldn't want them around a wheel of a car. So absolutely.
Some of them are so messed up they end up going into radio. Can't do much of anything else.
I resemble that remark.
You remember a couple of years ago I was prescribed morphine.
And you wouldn't share.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I was prescribed morphine for pain. Did it for about 4 or 5 days. Made me so weird. I didn't want to be near a gun anyway. Not because I doubted myself. I wasn't in control. It was weird. So I understand the laws there, and they do make sense.
And the other thing is, check with the state. They should have on their websites for both the DMV and for concealed carry, there should be a list of prescription meds that you can't take and either carry your gun or drive. So, but I'll bet you that most people are unaware that you can get charged with DUI for taking prescription legal drugs. Yeah,
the officers here now carry roadside Prozac-alizers. Sorry.
I don't know where to go with that one. I just don't.
Let's go back to the phones. We got another guy waiting for us.
Okay, we got Dave's on one out of Oakland, California. Oakland, a real good place for shooters these days. Hey, Dave, I'm just making fun. How you doing, Dave?
This is Oakland Township in Michigan, so not quite as bad.
Oh, much better. Okay, good.
Still early though.
Hey, I had a thought. I've been kind of waiting for somebody to pick a fight with me about this. Some of the anti-gunners picking a fight about this Oakland shooter. I mean, was it San Diego or San Diego?
Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara, okay.
Right.
According to the news reports that I've seen on TV, which is the local or the big network news, he was approached, or the police were called to his house by his parents, concerned,
right,
some days before, and the statement from the police was he seemed rational and they couldn't go into his house because they didn't have a warrant and search.
Right.
And I've also seen the reports. I haven't read his manifesto, but I've seen reports that they say that he says in his manifesto, it's a good thing that the police didn't go into my room.
He does.
Because they would have found my arsenal.
Yep. He actually spoke about how it upset him to no end that he could have been found out before he could carry out his grandiose plan. And if that were to have happened, he already had a contingency plan there. He was going to take the cops out and then do a hasty version of his plan.
Okay, so that gets me to my point, is that I was waiting for some anti-gunner to pick a fight with me on this, and I was going to retort that, well, then you should also be equally against the Fourth Amendment protection against unwarranted searches and seizures. The
question to ask him would be, well, do you want the police to make warrantless searches? Well, they're going to say, well, no. Well, then they're got to find a way. And here's where we are. We've got a situation where we have trouble. I'm trying to pick the words carefully. We have trouble dealing with mental illness in this country because we don't want to stigmatize anybody. We don't want to, we want to give everybody their rights, and I understand that. I get that. But at the same time, there were people, and we're going to find out there were a lot of people. I'll guarantee you, over the next week, we're going to find a lot of people who said, yeah, that boy was crazy. He was nuts. They're already they're saying, as young as when he was like in grade school, we knew there was something not right with him. And somewhere along the way, there had to have been some mechanism to intervene. to get involved, to help him, seek help, find some way, and not let it go this far. Somewhere along the line, there had to be something that somebody could have done.
Well, you've got hordes of people on the internet. Now, he even said in this manifesto that he must have been too angry in his previous YouTube videos, so he took them down only to upload them the other day because he wanted them on the internet when he pulled this off, right? But the thing is, there are features on YouTube and everywhere all over the internet where you can hit report this, write the description of what's wrong with it. You know, this guy's threatening to kill people, and the police will intervene. People don't do it. They think it's a joke or whatever, but like you said, too, we can't just ignore this stuff and hope it's going to go away, because it won't.
Well, it's kind of like when somebody's getting beaten on the street and people just drive by or walk by and don't say anything, don't get involved. I don't want to get involved. That's not my thing.
I don't want to get involved, but I've got my iPhone running.
Yeah,
that's
so
right.
sit here and tape it.
Oh, I think I showed you the video, guys, last week of in New Orleans where they had these two people fighting, and you must have had 50 people around them urging them on. Everybody's shooting video. Everything was great until one of them pulls out a gun and starts shooting. I'm going, first of all, that's what you're doing. This is like a schoolyard bully deal. They're fighting. But also, I'm thinking, man, when two people start fighting, I am doing a 180 and getting so far away. I'm getting away from that mayhem because no telling what's going to transpire there. But some people won't take action, and yet there are some of us who will help out.
I just wonder if that's a head in the sand reaction, or if it's...
Or maybe it's just, I don't want to get involved because then I'll be involved with the paperwork. Or there's also a factor of, if these are truly bad guys, they may come and hurt me later on.
What if you're driving down the expressway, you see a guy weaving in and out of traffic, and it's not a pothole, and it's not
I call 911. I've done it several times.
So do I.
Rapid, I'm right on there on calling 911 on that deal.
Okay.
Just somebody driving down the road drunk or distracted is no different from somebody who is just taking pot shots at people, in my view.
There's people on the other end who'll say, look at that idiot, I'm going to get around him, and they're not going to report it, and they're not going to do anything about it. So, I mean, there are always going to be people that just don't want to get in the fray and just, well, I'll keep to myself, and they're part of the problem.
What's that old phrase? If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem?
Yep.
Okay, there you go. Well, Dave, look, I appreciate the call, sir, and I know. What do you do? If police go there, they don't have any course of action, they don't have something that they can go in on, they don't have a warrant, you don't want them kicking indoors, warrantless, at least I sure as heck don't. So we've got to find some other way, and I gather that there have been a number of visits by the police to this guy. I mean, look, in the next week, we're going to find out everything possible about this guy.
Right. We're going to have hundreds of interviews of neighbors, like you said.
We're also going to have every opportunistic politician trying to use this to further her or his agenda for gun control, gun bans, background checks, which are just gun bans. I mean, people need to understand, all the expanded, quote-unquote, expanded background check is a ban on gun shows and private sales. That's all it is, because we already have mandatory background checks on everybody who buys a gun from a licensed gun dealer. So when they say we're going to have comprehensive or universal background checks, they mean we're going to ban private sales of guns and we're going to ban gun shows. That's what's going on there. So, I mean, you got to understand what the code words are.
It's also already illegal to sell a gun to somebody you know that shouldn't have one. So there's that.
And it's illegal to buy a gun for somebody who can't have one, and it's illegal to shoot people who shouldn't be shot. I mean, there is the old Clint Smith deal that some people just need to be shot. I mean, there is that.
I'm still looking forward to the interview of his neighbors, this kid. And, well, we knew something was wrong when he used to go outside and mow the dog.
Yeah, that's right. He was killing cats. He was, we're going to learn a lot about this, but at the same time, and let's just bounce just for a second, because I did go on a bit of a rant on the Texas open carry guys. And I will say this, C.J. Gresham, no relation to me, I don't think, who was on our show actually a few months ago, he is the head of Texas open carry, started backing off. He's been saying, well, we just have to get it out in front of people. And this week, he talked to, I had dinner Wednesday night with a bunch of NRA folks. He was talking to one of them a lot. And she read him the Riot Act. And he started backing off and saying, it's possible that the public isn't actually perceiving us the way we want to be perceived. You think? Maybe let's just start anyway.
We have a group here in Ohio that Northwest Ohio carry, and they've organized some things, mostly just like parades and open carry walks. They get it approved, everything downtown ahead of time, alert the police. But that way they're not in your face in a restaurant where you're trying to eat. And I think they're carrying American flags. They're being very patriotic. They're being very respectful. I think that something like that does more to further the pro-gun agenda than just surprising people that lock themselves into a freezer at a restaurant.
That's awareness, not obnoxiousness.
Exactly.
By the way, no one ever locked themselves in a freezer in a restaurant.
Well, I did hear that report, but
no, that was a report, but it didn't happen. It didn't.
That's good. That's good because that's a really stupid reaction. Not only for the fact that it's probably going to get you killed if there was a real threat because you have no way to get out.
What it does do is that the police in Fort Worth said that these people hid in a freezer when it didn't happen. And so now you're wondering, okay, who said it did and how did it get in the police report and why are the police saying that did when the employees say it didn't and the manager says it never happened? And there's a whole lot going on there. I'm actually in communication with a writer from Forbes who wrote about that. And her position is real simple. She says, I don't care what the people who were in the store said. I'm going with the police report. I'm going, really?
Wow.
Okay. That's a CYA deal. And I pointed out, I said, you may find that there's a more interesting story here. Why would the police be saying this if the people who were in the restaurant say it didn't happen that way?
Agenda.
Would you care to maybe dig just a wee bit? Or do you just take the official position as being gospel? Do you think Woodward and Bernstein would have done that? And if they had, we'd never had Watergate.
Exactly.
Duh. One of the things I want to point out is that these guys, for whatever reason, also seem to want to look as stupid and slovenly as possible. If you're 100 pounds overweight and you wear stupid shorts and an ugly T-shirt, you just don't look professional. If these guys had walked in, and look, I'm sorry, but this is just the way it is. If they're fit and they're wearing good-looking clothes, people would probably not have been as upset about it. That's neither right nor wrong.
The Bubba factor.
It's the profile.
It's the profile.
Well, yeah, and
If you want to do open carry somewhere, if you wear even jeans, but good jeans, a tucked-in shirt, and an open carry pistol that's on your belt, not some stupid low-hung thigh rig, you're not Tommy Tactical out there, and you look like a professional. I always say, dress good. People say, you mean dress well? I say, no, I mean dress good. Dress like a good guy.
Well, this is all about education, not showmanship. That's what we have to remind ourselves every day. This is education. It's educating yourself, it's educating the public, and it's not going out there and being a person showing off what you have, being equipment, being clothing, being any kind of accessory. But that's where people concentrate.
I think if they would have taken the energy they took for what they did that day and taken 4 or 5 newbies out shooting.
Or a couple of members of the media.
right. Oh, that's even a better idea.
Yeah, good call.
And invite a reporter out. Oh, and please, if you're going to invite a reporter out, don't wear your Hitler shirt. I mean, come on. This is public relations 101. It may even be 100. It may be remedial public relations out there. Michelle, you said education. I want to make a point here. Every contact you have with anybody, individual or the public, affects their opinion. It's like I always say, when you're training dogs, every contact you have with your dog teaches them something. That is, if you say no, Rover, get down, Rover, no, Rover, get down, Rover, get down, Rover, what you're teaching the dog is, you don't have to do anything until I've said it 12 times. Because you're teaching them something. Every encounter, you're teaching them something. Same with kids, exactly the same. You do the same thing with kids. If you say no, now I really mean it, then what they learn is, I don't have to pay attention until you say, now I really mean it.
Right.
Same deal with the public. We have a chance to educate the public, going back to what you said, Michelle. And we're going to educate them that we're stupid and clueless and dangerous and slovenly and scary, or we're going to educate them that we're clean, we dress well, we're people they would like to be around, we speak well, and we're not bone stupid.
It's not even a neutral thing if you don't present yourself well. It's not a neutral thing. It's detrimental. It's like a pastor or a priest giving his presentation, his homily, whatever, and then 2 days later he gets busted in some sex scandal. His credibility is shot. half of his parish is saying, "Oh, we're done with this guy." It doesn't matter what he says after the fact; he's not going to really recover from that. It's the same thing, gun thing. You can do something really stupid it has nothing to do with guns. You do something really stupid, you now have ruined your credibility in anything you're talking about.
The image you present visually can trump what you say verbally.
Oh,
That's right.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, just we draw our conclusions based on our past experience, and if you come in looking like a slob, acting like a slob, and you know what, you're just not going to get a lot of respect.
Right. Now, people call that profiling, but I think it's just human nature to assess based on history.
Profiling is smart. Profiling keeps you alive. Profiling lets you figure out who the bad guys are in advance. Profiling is something we all should work on. Not racial profiling. I'm talking about sizing someone up based on behavior, looks, just basically an accumulation of things, body language, et cetera, with the understanding that many times, you can have somebody who's pick whatever you want, tattooed, whatever, who's a great guy, wonderful, super, no problems here. But when you start to stack up a number of factors, then it starts to make sense. Okay, we've got slovenly. Oh, gee, they're carrying semi-automatic rifles and shotguns into a restaurant. Okay, I think we have at least hit a couple of the points here. And do I want... And at this point, I guess what I'm asking is for you guys. You're sitting in this restaurant. We're all concealed carry people here. I like guns. I like gun people. If I see these guys walking in, they have my full and undivided attention until I figure out what's going on. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying I'm drawing a gun. I'm not saying I'm doing anything like that. I'm just saying that they have my attention. And somebody who's not into guns, who may be even afraid of guns, they're going to be scared out of their mind. It's bad tactics all the way around, and we know it's bad tactics. If you do it every time, and every time you do it, you lose, you might want to stop doing it. And we have lost, every time these goofballs do this, we lose a big PR battle. And PR, as I said, moves public opinion, and public opinion decides what laws are going to get passed. So if you want to win in the legislature and in Congress, you've got to win the PR battle. And these guys are not helping us.
No, this definitely needs to be our business. And I don't mean our business by being nosy, but it's our business to look professional.
For better or for worse, these are our guys. And I think that in the past, some of our folks on our side have been reluctant to speak up and say, knock it off. We can't do that anymore. We got to tell them, knock it off in no uncertain terms. You're hurting all of us.
Right,
and when they say, well, it's my right, I say, I don't care. It is your right. I agree with you. But you're helping the other side. You got to knock it off.
That's right. There's different ways of making your point.
I think it has to start with every personal interaction that a gun owner has with somebody else, too. It's not just when it's in a national food chain. It's online. It's when you hold the door open for somebody at a store. The way you present yourself, especially if it's known to the other people that you are a carrier, you are an advocate, is going to go much further than to forward our agenda, if you will, then it's going to hurt it.
What you're saying is you're an ambassador.
Absolutely.
Right.
So there you go. All right, guys, I think we have flogged this thing enough. And as we watch this over the next week, it's going to be interesting to see, will the media pick up on this and run with the gun control meme? Some will. Will some of them say, okay, let's take a harder look at mental illness and what we do there? Maybe. But the Blumenthals and the Pelosi's of the world are going to jump all over this. And I'll guarantee the president will. You could just bet money on that one.
Sure. You had asked earlier in the show if they'll be using this in the upcoming elections. And I almost think, this is a sick thought, it almost happened too soon for that. Because the American public, just 3 weeks from now, nobody's going to remember this guy.
Probably won't factor into elections. But the Democrats have figured out that elections are a bad time to talk about gun control. Even though they like to say, well, 90% of the people support this. Well, you know what? 90% of the people support this if you ask them, do you support background checks? But if you say, we already have background checks where every purchase from a gun store has to be okayed by the FBI, do you think we need more than that? I doubt you'll get 90%.
That's the way you asked the question, yeah.
Play up on the fact that a lot of people don't know we have background checks. But I think maybe you're right that the timing's off, but also I think maybe this is not a good election issue. But I do think it's going to pop up in Congress. And I'll tell you where else it's going to move. Where the real action is going to take place is more states are going to work on this, and more states are going to pass these universal comprehensive background check bills, which, we'll take this up at another time, spins us back to what Alan Gottlieb was saying last year. If we don't get something we can live with, they're going to give us something we can't live with.
That's right.
Well, we have a topic for next week's show now, don't we?
There you go. You guys be safe out there. And Jim, when you get these new guns that you just bought, let me know what they are, okay?
You said you're going to check this week to see how this thing plays out with this guy in California. I'm not going to be paying much attention to that. I got my mind on other stuff.
Yeah, you just picked up some guns, and we're going to find out what you got.
Yeah, I'll know Tuesday, and I'll update you guys all next week.
I'll be here Tuesday.
You guys be good.
See ya.
See you guys.
Bye.
Now, wasn't that fun? You'll probably want to join us again next week for the Gun Talk After Show. It comes up right after the radio broadcast right here. It's where Tom and some of the crew and staff stick around and let their hair down a little bit, doing what they do best, talking about guns. We'll see you right here next week.